Hello, and welcome to a new episode of the Alpha Rejects. Here we are gathered together as representatives of the Omega Legion from Warhammer Tacticus in our regular discussion, although we need to become more regular about it, but we'll talk about that later. Today I have with me the amazing Lysander,
Hello.
the ever hidden Spy,
What's up?
and our fearless leader Geronimo.
I'm right next to you. Why didn't you start with me?
I was going I'm going in reverse order
That's
of
not even
handsomeness.
reversed order.
No, I'm going in reverse order of handsomeness. That's the reason I introduced myself last. And I, most handsome, am Elanius Pius. And we are hosting today to talk to you about the amazing Genestealer Cult. We're going to dive deep into the Genestealer Cult. We're going to find out as much as we can without getting converted ourselves. So if you are really into bulbous heads and extra arms, this is definitely the show for you. So to get started, Genestealer Cults. What all you guys know? A whole lot or nothing at all?
I know a good amount.
Bit. A bit, but not enough to be considered a reliable expert. That's for sure.
Yeah, same here.
I gotta thank Dives Kane.
Fair. That's fair. They've always been kind of one of those fringe groups, but particularly with their introduction into the tabletop game, with the new models to support them, and then also their inclusion in Warhammer Tacticus. I think that there's a lot more interest there. I am no complete expert on the GSC, the Genestealer Cults, but going back to my old memories, because I am the team's old man, seems to me that the first introduction or the first hint of the GSC actually was in the tabletop game Space Hulk. Now, have you guys played Space Hulk, or are you familiar with it?
Never played it, but I have heard of it.
Well, not too long ago, I bought an Xbox game that was called Space Hulk, and it's kind of like the original tabletop.
Yeah, that was pretty cool of them to release that. I played that myself, and honestly, there was an even older version of Space Hulk on the computer that got me dragged into that as well. Way back in 92 maybe, 93. And you know what? It really skewed my perceptions, particularly of Terminators, because in Space Hulk, it's very reminiscent of like the movie Aliens, where you've got the Tyranids, the Genestealers popping out of the walls and just ripping Terminators to shreds. And it gave me this impression that either Genestealers were like the apex creature of all time in the Games Workshop universe, or that Terminators were just not that impressive. But I guess that's a bit of a skewed view.
Right.
Yeah. Well, then the next place where we see the development of the Genestealer cult is in Necromunda. And there's also been a Necromunda game released recently, both in tabletop and video games, as a chance to revisit that. For those of you who don't know, Necromunda is a squad-based tactical approach to the Warhammer 40K universe, and for small tactics. And that's really where they first introduced the idea of this Genestealer cult. The Genestealer cult being a group of humans who have been infiltrated by Genestealers and exist in various stages of development, looking more or less alien, and led by a patriarch who's a powerful psyker and cult leader. There's also the Magus, who tends to be more of the outward-facing face of the cult. And then along the lines, you've got various stages of development, cult members who look almost but not quite human, all the way to ones with extra arms and eventually back to the Genestealers. And they have a really interesting evolutionary pathway that they follow as they move through generations, making room and making way for the Genestealers to infiltrate society. And they had honestly some of the coolest figures that came out, particularly when they launched the Genestealer limousines, which just they looked dope and pimp. Yes, I'm using those words, dope and pimp, to have a armored limousine that was delivering your forces to the battlefield.
They honestly needed to bring those back to tabletop.
You know, I think since they've got the vehicles, the exterior, like the ash waste vehicles for League of Votan and others, there's certainly a space for it now.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be totally awesome if it happened.
So they started
So-
in Necromunda. Did they? I don't even know how long Kill Team has actually been around. Oh, so has Necromunda existed longer than Kill Team?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. In the original iteration, it was, around in the mid 90s. It was seen as a way to, well, what Games Workshop referred to it as was as a beer and pretzel game. The idea that this is something that you could sit down quickly with a few friends and have a skirmish battle in just a couple of hours instead of the, really large scale battles that they had been playing. It was also seen as a gateway to get people into Games Workshop because you only had to do a few figures. And they had most of the gangs that we're familiar with today, like Orlok and Escher and Goliath, involved. And so, including the Genestealer Cults, if I remember correctly, they originally started as like a oppositional force for some special missions before being developed out into a full-grown faction of their own, primarily supported through articles in White Dwarf. I don't believe they ever had like a handbook for them or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. Just set of rules, really, just for their characters.
Yeah, and articles that when they would release something new, they would get a article or a mission briefing or something like that to support them, and then they developed that way, and then almost became a thing of legend until you see the introduction of them in the games like Kill Team and full blown tabletop battle forces now, which honestly I think are so cool because I love the essentially repurposed and looted vehicles that they have out there, and the whole insurrectionist look that they have in the tabletop now is really neat. So, well, I've rambled a lot there. Does anybody have any thoughts on the GSC at this point? I do have some other questions to go into.
Well, I do know that, well, another avenue of being exposed to them is through the video games, and especially because a game called Rogue Trader came out with, I think it's Void in the Shadow or whatever it's called,
Mhm.
and that one has Genestealer Cults as well.
Well, yeah, I've been playing through those missions in Rogue Trader, and I was like, when you first get hints of them, I'm like, wait a minute, are they saying you've got a Genestealer cult on board your ship? And then you go through the whole thing, and they're led by like a Kelomorph. It's like, whoa, this is so awesome. So I think they did a really good job of introducing that and making them baddies. So
Well, have you? I don't know if you've finished it yet or not, but it is very much so worth it to
Yeah.
finish off the story
Mhm.
because the fight is fun,
Yeah.
or the end fight is.
Is that the one? And then I'm not sure if I finished the entire storyline. I think I did. But it's almost like a Western standoff between the main character and the assassin girl and the gunslinging GSC big baddie.
Yep.
Is that the end of it?
Nope, you haven't finished it yet.
Oh, there's more. Oh, boy.
Yes, there's more.
I'm excited. Okay, cool.
I won't tell
I'm
you
gonna keep digging.
anything else.
Okay,
Lol.
fair enough. Okay. But you know what? That actually touches on a huge point that has to do with the GSC, and that is their infiltration of the working class in every world that they go to. The way the Genestealer cult spreads is essentially the Genestealers make their way through ships, either through space hulks or being transported uh, as a planet is being invaded by Tyranids, because they are essentially harbingers for the Tyranids, and they are spread to other worlds where they give their kiss, which is implanting their eggs and their seeds, and to their victims, and then they are brought into the family. And in their own psychology, we see this both in the information that's been released through rules, but also through short stories and narratives, that they really do view their members as family. Um, and it's kind of surprising how well they're taken care of by members of the cults. Um, but you see that expansion and how it could grow in a society that has been so ground down by the essential inhumanity of the empire, and it's a dark mirror of the empire to the point where they even have a false religion, the worship of the many armed emperor, that they often hide behind as well.
That's interesting. Like, do they even know that as soon as like a Tyranid hive fleet shows up, they're just going to be eaten essentially and turned into biomass?
Nope,
That's
not
a
until last second when they go in the pool.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's actually one of the questions we were going to look at, is the relationship between the GSC and the NIDS. They are your classic um, brainwashed cult. They do not know that they are going to become part of the Kool-Aid, and because their control by the cult is a combination of psychic manipulation and a sense of religious fervor. Um, they are
And
ready to
chemical.
uprise in chemical pheromones. Yeah, thank you. Chemical. When the Tyranids approach a planet, they are ready to to be a fifth column, and to bring down the defenses from the inside. And they are chanting hymns to the many armed emperor until they enter that pool.
That's depressing. And they're like,
Well,
oh, we
they're
screwed up.
what?
So not all of them get to jump in the pool though. If they're exceptional, they're kept alive to continue the good work.
Yep. Continue the good work, to be missionaries, like I said, where they are sent off with the evacuees and spread to other worlds. And it's going to be the ones who look the most human, of course, as they do generationally. So,
And I read a book not too long ago called Void King,
mhm,
and um the main character is being manipulated by this other rogue trader because they're part of like this rogue trader conglomerate
uh-huh,
where and this kid's dad was like the king of the conglomerate of these multiple rogue trader dynasties that are part of like one collective, and one of the rogue trader dynasties was actually an infected um, Genestealer cult element, and the way they described it in the book, this is like this took generations. This took like 6 or 7 generations. So we're talking almost 500 years
mhm.
Yeah, they take
of the.
time.
I mean, I was like,
Yeah,
God dang.
Yeah, they take a long time. And if something happens to like the patriarch, it's gonna have a little snag, but they'll have another one over time.
Yeah, absolutely. They are slow and subtle, and they can pretty much any of the. I think it's only the full gene stealers that can morph into a patriarch, but the way they do with the generational breeding, um, they'll just keep having generations of babies until it comes back to a pure strain, and that will grow into a patriarch. So,
If I remember right, it takes 5 generations.
that sounds right. Yeah, and
Even then, they
they'll
all do it differently when they kinda do something.
right. They've got the way of spreading the seed is everywhere from the gene stealer kiss back to the old fashioned way of making the babies, and they will spread the genetic code that way.
And there's a third
All
way.
right. I want this debunked right now because there's a lot of like creepy um art made of the Gene Stealer kiss, and it is very from a woman just basically like uh face hugger style where they just the Gene Stealer kiss just like injects it through the mouth or chest, and then there's other even creepier, more erotic forms of this that we can't really mention without being flagged, and I don't. So we're not going to say it.
Right.
Um, I want that debunked right now. Like what? How when someone is initially infected by a gene stealer kissed, how is it done?
Okay. Well, Geronimo, you wanted to talk about, and we'll get to that. I'm going to put a pin in that. Geronimo, you mentioned a third way of spreading their genes.
So there's this cult called the Twisted Helix. They can actually medically give you like the gene stealer kiss. Mess your genes,
Absolutely.
change it to, start changing to the gene stealer and infect
Yeah,
you.
and that's some of the cool stuff that came out of like what that Necromunda Second City, uh, where we start to see that. Now, getting back to our sensitive question there. So the way I've seen it described in short stories and stuff is if the kiss comes from a pure gene stealer, they actually have like a psychic hypnotic effect that they can project that makes their victim desire the kiss. And then it is given with, a lip lock like alien style, face hugger style.
Okay.
But once someone has become infected, they are filled with a drive to reproduce,
Wow.
as would normally be done, and they not only do any of their children have the gene seed in them, but it gets passed on to any of their partners, and that goes both ways. They could be considered like a very elaborate uh, social disease in that regard.
Oh wow. It reminds me of
Uh,
the really bad '90s movie Species.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
I completely forgot about that movie. Yeah, but it's that same sort of thing, and they just have it becomes their only driving factors are
Breeding,
reproducing and
expanding.
breeding and protecting, providing for the members of the cult, and it's kind of shocking. Well, not shocking, but it's in a way sad because in those generations before the NIDs show up, life is honestly pretty good for most people in the cult. They're really well fed. They feel a sense of community and love that quite often, it doesn't seem to exist anywhere else in the 40K universe, and they have this buffer between them and the rest of the universe that is very understandable. Is an interesting aspect of it.
I would disagree with that.
You think so? Okay.
Well, depending on the species,
What do you mean by species?
humans, orcs, elves.
Ah, okay. That's a fantastic point.
Mm-hmm. But under the humans, under Imperium law, yeah. Generation
fair
1s
enough.
would be treated like mutants and killed. Generation 2.
Right.
And then those who pass as human have to be careful.
Right.
And then they got all the other generations to support.
Right. But you mentioned other species. Have we seen any evidence, or is anyone aware of any evidence of the Genestealer cults active in other species?
Yes.
Yes, in the Eldar.
Yeah, there was a
And-
craft world that let themselves get purposely infected.
Yep.
Oh, I hadn't heard that story. Tell me about that.
Oh yeah, this is a good one.
Lysander, you want to tell it?
No, all you.
Pretty much
Well, I
they
don't know
want some
they-
mesh to have them. So they decided to try, let's go Genestealers. Let's see if that will work.
Yeah, I
Okay.
didn't know the
So they
full
chose,
story.
Yeah. That's how it goes.
I don't know the full story either, but I have heard about it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
As for the orcs,
How about?
I know of a Cyphus Cain story that happened,
Uh-huh.
and it was called, what was it called?
Oh, you've become godlike Echo. That is awesome.
The Emperor's Finest.
Emperor's Finest.
Mhm.
Okay.
There was a Genestealer problem on one of the planets. Stuff happens, and in the Space Marines, I forget what chapter it is, but they go after the problem, which was what we're on.
A Space Hulk.
Space Hulk.
Okay.
Oh, I remember that book.
Mm-hmm. So orcs also try to get on the Space Hulk to get what they could.
Mhm.
Orcs are different when they're Genestealers. They're not as yappy or.
They're not orky.
Yeah, they're not orky.
That's that. Okay. I need to read that because my only awareness of interaction is like old stuff once again because I'm the old guy. And there was a story about development of the squigs being an interaction between orcs and Genestealer cults, and it resulted in the first squigs, and the orcs, they couldn't stand the idea of their brother being held by this Genestealer cult, so they went and rescued them, and got my air quotes there, and the genes from the GSC had turned them into the first squigs, and they developed after that.
Mm-hmm.
So squigs are a direct result of Genestealers.
Yeah, in really old lore now, I doubt that's canon anymore because this is back when they were willing to be super silly with the orcs. But it might be okay now because they have orcs toppling titans by driving trucks into them. So why not?
Yeah, that's a little weird, but
Orcs are always weird.
And they're the happiest ones. I mean, they're living their best orky life in the 40K universe. So
oh yeah, I've been reading Brutal Cunning.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a really cool attempt to get in and try to explain the orcish mindset, or orky. I guess it'd be orky mindset.
Yeah,
Us.
but yeah, that's crazy that I had no clue that the old lore had GSC being the reason for
Wigs.
squigs. That's,
The
yeah,
squigs. Yeah.
I've never heard that till now.
That's Oh man, that's old stuff. So like I said, it's probably not even considered normal,
Yeah.
or definitely not canon anymore. But what about chaos and the Genestealer cults or Tyranids as a larger whole?
Oh, I have no idea. I bet those two wouldn't jive very good because, chaos being like this, for lack of a better term, ethereal thing going on within humans or whatever, whoever's wielding the warp power at the time, and then colliding with like a say like a demon possessed human, and then
Huh?
colliding with the will of the hive mind. Just seems like it just wouldn't work very good.
Even then, you gotta remember that depending how deep you were in the chaos sauce, you get mutated by that too.
The
Yeah,
chaos sauce. That is awesome. I have to remember that.
Well,
So, yeah, the chaos sauce.
I don't see it happening with Nurgle at all. Like the minute it goes like, oh, STD? Nope, none of that.
Yeah. And I wonder about like the nature of the psychic interaction between the two, because GSC, I mean the patriarchs and the magus are really powerful psychers, and it plays a significant role in the way that they are controlling things. And uh, I'd be curious to know about how that interacts with the psychic fields of um, or the psychic effect of chaos, whether they could even manifest that way. As is said, it's like, or would the GSC essentially be protected from chaos by the shadow and the warp that is generated, because um, the shadow and the warp is generated by the GSC to a much lesser extent, but it's still present.
I would say no.
You don't think that they'd be able to interact because of that, or
I don't think the Genestealer cult would have enough of that to mess with them
okay, okay,
because, let's face it, the Tyranids themselves had to break off a branch just to even fight ethereal demons and on demon
right,
worlds. They had to make a new recipe just to even, hurt them.
right.
As for the Genestealers, the only time they bounce is if they think they have a chance or if there's enough of them to make a difference.
That's a good point. Yeah. So,
Yeah, I would agree with that too. It's just like that. There's one craft world that was completely destroyed by the Tyranids.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the Tyranids, when they first got there, I forgot which Hive Fleet it was, but now it's like that Hive Fleet has become like their Psyker special Hive Fleet,
hmm
and
I think
they
it's Kraken.
basically is Kraken the one.
I think so.
Um,
Yeah, it
they
is
literally had,
because yeah.
okay. Well, anyway, they had
Sorry.
to mutate um portions of their soldiers and their peons to be able to combat the psychers of the Eldar that they were attacking. So that's when we got like Neuranthropes and those other psyker based um, NIDs, is because they had to adapt to it. And even then, the NIDs still had a tough time. They eventually won through attrition because it's NIDs. And
right,
yeah, but the fact that they had just a tough time with it, they had to come up with a whole new type of Tyranid that could harness uh, the warp fuckery and deal with the elder that they were fighting.
Oh, and remember devastation of Ball when the warp opened?
Yes.
It affected Nids greatly.
Yes. Oh yeah. When what was it? Cabanda?
Uh-huh.
Was it Cabanda? Yeah, I think it was Cabanda. Yeah, like when Cabanda opened up the warp so he could go attack the Nids, so he could essentially distract the Nids long enough for the Blood Angels to win. They the psychic boom that happened completely messed with the Nids, and then wasn't Mephiston literally fighting Cabanda at the time when this happened, when Cabanda entered the mortal, or not the mortal sphere, but the how they did, I forget the term that they use to differentiate from the warp through real space.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And they essentially basically made the Tyranids go kind of stupid for a few minutes. And
So they
Blood Angel
synaptic disconnected.
yes, they just became primal. They weren't working as one.
Right. Yeah. And that's seen a few times. If the hive mind gets broken, the very animalistic nids they'll even turn on each other just because, like you
They're
said, they
animals,
wouldn't go
yeah.
completely primal. Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
Sorry that took so long to explain, but
Oh, that's awesome. Deep lore. Thank you. All right. So I've got one more big question for us to go into here, and that is the Genestealer cult on Terra?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Reed's
I
like,
think it has
yes.
to be.
Oh, it's already been.
Yes.
There's already been Genestealer cults discovered on Terra.
And they get hunted down mercilessly.
Oh, they get bodied every single time.
I think there's a recent book that had, what was it? What are the Golden Boys called again?
Custodes.
Yep.
Custodes?
Custodes story. Yep. It had
Mhm.
them dealing with them, the latest Genestealers on Terra, I think.
And that makes
Was it an
sense.
Agents of Rome book?
I think so. I got it up. But yeah. Genestealers are they're in the walls.
They're,
In the water.
they're terrifying, man.
They're annoying. I don't like them.
Did any of you watch the Warhammer Plus TV show Angels of Death?
Nope.
No, sorry.
It was fantastic, and it was basically Blood Angels versus the Genestealer cult on some obscure planet. Because and this story was taking place right before the devastation of Ball,
Uh-huh.
and like they were literally fighting in a void war with the Tyranids, and because the Tyranids screw with warp travel so much during their arrival or their departure,
Yeah.
they got stuck in a warp storm, and they were able to get out, but they were by some planet that had already been completely overtaken by a Genestealer cult, and the Genestealers were just literally waiting for the warp storm to dissipate until these
Right.
Blood Angels come up, and the story's fantastic. If you ever get a chance to just do a 1 month subscription of Warhammer Plus and just watch all that content in that month, because you absolutely can because there's just not enough of it.
Right.
But it's a movie. Like they did a director's or a final cut,
Uh-huh.
and it's almost 3 hours long, and it's essentially a movie.
Wow.
And it's way better than that Ultramarine movie that they made in the early 2000s.
That wouldn't be
They made a
hard, but yeah,
movie?
okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes, and it was that Ultramarine movie was terrible. Absolutely terrible, but GW didn't invest any money into it, so it was doomed from the start.
Yeah, it's like they didn't really have much faith in the possibility of it succeeding. I don't think there was even they had any inkling of the popularity of the material. They couldn't conceive it for whatever reason. So
Is it called Ultramarine?
I don't think it
I
is. I
don't
think it's
remember the
called
name of
something
it.
else.
Because I'm genuinely want to sit down and watch it and just judge it to see how bad it is.
yeah, get
I
your
think it's
judgments on.
There's Ultramarines. You can
I
already judge
literally,
it by the name.
Oh,
I think you can watch it on Amazon.
Oh yeah, it is Ultramarine. A Warhammer 40,000 movie. 2010.
Yeah,
it is the voice acting is so bad. It's so stinted and what ho, brother, we are here to do the thing, and we're going to do the thing no matter what the thing. Just
They pretty
as they
much
say in
just
the
figure
South,
it
it
out as
bless
they
their
is.
hearts.
went.
Like they had come up with a decent plot. It's just the execution was terrible.
Yeah.
And like we said, that like no money was invested into it.
Mhm.
The
Mostly,
animation was trash.
mostly felt like people just walking around and talking,
Yeah,
and yeah, and not in a very exceeding way. I mean, I know you need to have lore dumps sometimes and build characters, but there was no soul to it. It just didn't feel. It's
well,
like
it's like
go ahead.
what?
I was gonna say it's like that voice actors were given descriptions of space marines, and it's like, stoic noble warriors, but all cut off on just stoic. It's just stoic. That's all they are,
That's
is
a good
stoic.
point. Well,
So,
that the Angels of Death was far from that.
mhm,
You had you had the brother who's just got back from the Death Watch, who has a chip on his shoulder because he never wanted to go to the Death Watch, and he's being a baby about it because he was having issues with the Black Rage and the Red Thirst. He's like, I had to endure this alone. Just being a baby about it. And the other brothers are me like, you're kind of being a little bitch, bro. Why don't you just uh, and then you have the badass captain who goes missing and they have to go find him. It's fun. It's a cool story. It's fun. My favorite character in the whole freaking show is the ship captain, ship mistress. God, what is her name? It's gonna drive me nuts. I have to look it up here in a bit, but she pretty much stole the show. But back to Gene Stealers, the show really painted the Gene Stealers in a really cool light,
uh-huh.
and because they even had like these Gene Stealer ogrins looking things in there that they called like the impure ones, and they like the imperfect ones or something like that,
Mhm,
and at the end, like there's a huge showdown with a patriarch who's
mhm.
freaking massive, by the
Yeah,
way.
patriarchs are huge, and they are monsters both physically and psychically. They are devastating.
Oh, they depicted him very accurately then because that patriarch pretty much tore apart the Blood Angels, and the only reason it went down is because some brother decided to go full screw you Horus mode and he eventually died. So there you go.
There's a good short story about a which is the assassins group that can change shape.
Calidus.
Calidus, yeah, is Calidus who's being experimented on and given a special treatment that would let her change into a pure, look like she was like a pure GSC. Excuse me, pure Genestealer. But it made it so that was the only other form she could turn into, and she was used to infiltrate a cult. And here it is, an assassin who are brutal and bad and can theoretically, supposedly take down really powerful space marines and stuff. And she's face to face with the patriarch and utterly terrified and feels overclassed in its presence. Now, how much of that is psychic influence and how much is genuine fear is really unclear, but it's really an interesting short story.
Well, that patriarch dwarfed. That patriarch was probably the size of a dreadnought.
It sounds about right. Yeah, they just
are
keep
very
growing.
big.
Yeah, they just keep growing. They're beasts. So, all right. Well, that's what I've got prepared on GSC. I don't know if we want to dig into any other stuff. I really like the GSC, especially with the new figures, because there's just so much variety with them. I love the whole infiltration and looted equipment, the way they repurpose like construction equipment into weaponry and vehicles. Just makes them really fun artistically.
Well, it's not like they can
Well,
have a lot to work with when they're trying their build.
Yeah.
true.
I've
So-
actually thought about, and probably tomorrow when I get paid, I'm actually debating if I want to get the kill team for the Genestealers.
You gonna do half and half?
I don't know yet.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, after, well, I feel like my Rogue Trader save is glitched, but
Oh no.
after playing through it and beating it, I am having, like, I'm starting to slowly fall in love with the Genestealers.
Gonna do it as trap.
Uh-oh. He's been infected. Keep an
Yeah,
eye
I
on
sure
him.
have.
It's the
Pin him
kiss,
down.
isn't it?
No, I want to bring up something, but I think they are.
Okay.
And what is that?
They're communists.
No, that'd be the cow.
Commies.
No. They are legit communists. Come on. Revolution ideas, collective mindset, anti-establishment, utopia at the end of the tunnel.
And then consumed by itself.
Yes. And then it restarts.
I agree completely. The Tau or the UN, complete with powder blue helmets. But yeah, they are the commies.
Yeah, cults are commies.
Absolutely, comrade. Genestealer Cults are commies.
I guess that's.
I never-
I'm still named as the filthy communist. So
There you go.
Guilty
Absolutely.
communist
pretty
spy.
funny. That is so funny. Oh my
So
god.
After doing
'Cause I've
research,
always-
I realized it. They're communist.
they are. And well, especially since we don't have the red Gobbo around much anymore, I guess we could have to have some commies.
He's more Christmassy now than communist.
Yeah.
Red Gob. Yeah, Red Gobbo's turned into Orky Santa Claus.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Have you
Orky
been a
Claus.
good orc boy? Here's your shooter.
That I would love them to bring Gorka Morka back, but that's a tangent. So this message is coming to you from the depths of the Space Hulk. Just a little bit of information, some background. as to why Games Workshop has distanced itself from the old sort of commie Red Gobbo to more of a Christmassy Red Gobbo. Originally, the character was leading like a revolution of Gretchens and Gobbos against the orcs, and so they kind of paired that with this idea of the rising worker class in the Soviet Union. But as with the recent conflicts between Ukraine and Russia, there's been a decision for the Games Workshop to distance itself from that, particularly anything that would seem like it was romanticizing Russia in any way. And hence the Red Gobbo has gone from being a socialist revolutionary to being their version of Santa Claus. Go figure. So,
What's that?
Orca Morca?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
That's-
Okay, so Orca Morca, it was like the idea was if you wanted to play orcs versus orcs, it was the bomb. The storyline was that there was this planet that um, had I think they were originally Mechanicus research, their exploratory vessels crashed on it, and that tech drew the orcs. And so the orcs came and wiped them out really quick, right before they could really get established. And then what they also found out is that the planet was a crypt world for the Necrons. And this is even before the Necrons were a significant force in the galaxy.
Hold on, I think I know
And
what you're
so,
talking about now. Is it also
yeah,
about
so
humans who painted themselves green and think they're orcs?
they became the Diggers,
The diggers.
which are,
Yep.
yep, and just the different
What are you
factions.
talking about?
Yeah, it is a super. It's an old game where it was orcs versus orcs and then humans
Yeah,
became orcs, but they weren't orcs, and they were called
yeah,
digas.
Diggers.
That is very, very close to.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, you
Debate.
got to
I think that
enunciate
I
real well.
oh my
It's a
god.
great. It's a great story though. It's funny. It's very funny.
It's
Oh,
It
so
is
the
hilarious.
fact that it's like they're essentially they're slaves and they're calling them diggers.
No, they're their
Are
own
you
Oh
serious
peoples.
right
no,
now?
they're
Okay.
their own tribe.
Yeah,
Um,
their own orc
Yeah,
clan.
but they're humans.
Yes,
That
they
that
they want to be
that's
orcs.
that's Looney Tunes, bro.
it is. It is a Looney Tunes game.
I'm going to share an image of some diggers,
What
so
were you
you
gonna
can see
say,
it. If I
Lysander?
drop,
Though
sorry.
Oh, I was gonna try to keep it on topic. What was I gonna say? I forgot. Wasn't important.
that
Yeah,
Genestealer Cults are communist.
they're
Oh,
commies.
yeah. I've always like looked at the Tau as straight up commies, but now that you mention it, the Genestealer cults are a lot more commie, minus the whole conquer planets only to be eaten thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. I dropped a piece of artwork in a podcast media from Gorka Morka supplement called Digga Knob, and it's got the diggers.
God, you got to stop with that. It is so close to being.
You think is it gonna trigger something?
No, it's. Some people are going to think that you're saying something totally different.
A lot of people
Absolutely,
already
but
think it's racist.
you think so?
Yeah, they do. I don't know why.
It's unfortunate. I think
Uh,
they're hilarious. Absolutely hilarious.
oh my
Uh,
god.
Yeah.
I still think it's hilarious, but oh my god. These guys are right. It's so close.
Mm.
Oh my god.
Right. But sorry, it in a tangent, they are called that because they have dug down into the earth. That's where they were hiding from the orcs. And they run into something, or that's just in the original material. It's just described as something that the orcs are terrified of. Um, and then with the expansion of the Necrons, it's revealed that it was a Necron um, crypt world, and they were accessing the technology, and the Necrons were not reacting negatively to these guys. So that's, they were extracting scrap from the crypt and trading it to the orcs, but the orcs wouldn't go down because number one, that's too much like work, and number two, they were terrified of something that was down there.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. Is
I
it still
honestly enjoyed
canon?
the stories from it.
I think it's still canon because it is just this one world, um, although it may have been destroyed.
It's lost
And
in the
that, I
void. No
mean,
one knows where it's at.
yeah,
That's the last I'm tracking
the,
on it.
yeah, or I could see it wiped out by Nids or the Necrons waking up and cleansing it or whatever. But
Get off
it
my
was,
lawn.
yeah, get off my lawn. It was very fun. It was bombastic, lots of war trucks and war bikes, and it was just pure ridiculousness. Very orcish. That's actually where a lot of the famous orc rules came from. Was like, paint it red and it gets 1 extra inch of movement and stuff like that. So
That's does that rule still exist?
I don't know if it's in
Uh-huh.
the current edition.
That'd be hilarious.
I probably have to research. You guys used
Yeah,
to
but
be in until what edition again?
I think second.
Yeah. They were
Yeah,
actually tabletop too.
yeah. They had. I know there was the red go faster, and if it was blue, it was luckier. So I think it had like a reroll or something like that. The different colors that you did would actually affect had rules. So,
Oh, that'd be nice if they
That's
had that nowadays.
heck yeah. People
or
would
like the
freaking go nuts with their orcs with all sorts of different colors.
Mm-hmm.
the purple stealth. I love the purple stealth joke. That's a relatively recent one, but it's like you
Oh
paint
yeah,
your
yeah. A dude tried to pull that card the other day. He's like, he's brought in a couple basing pieces,
Mm.
and they're like, they're like, what the hell's that? And he's like, those are purple orcs. Those are purple boys with shooters. I was like, everyone just giggled, but it was a good joke. He wasn't serious, but it was funny.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
All right, back
That's
to Gene
perfect.
Stealers now.
All right, back to Gene Stealers. Gene Stealers. Yeah, okay. So that's what I've got on Gene Stealers. Do you guys have anything else that you'd like to bring up?
I'm sorry, what was that, Lysander?
Well, in the current lore, so in that book, The Void King,
Uh-huh.
uh, at the end of the book, so you guys know the new Crusade, the Knockman Gauntlet in the current edition of 40K?
Yeah, that's like
Kind of
the
familiar
narrow
with it.
passage that goes through the cicatrix, right?
Yes, that's right. But on the Imperium side, that's not uh, really affected by not seeing the Astronomicon.
Uh-huh.
The planet at the mouth of the Knockman Gauntlet. That is, according to that book, I don't know if that's been retconned within the last 2 years because that book is quite recent.
Like,
And is completely controlled by gene stealers.
oh wow.
So I wonder what kind of like monkey in the wrench that puts into Abaddon's plans, but or because this kid is literally hired. This kid's Rogue Trader Dynasty and the conglomerates that are attached the other Rogue Trader dynasty that are attached to this, they have been tasked by Gellerman to go find a route, an alternate route through the Cicatrix Maledictum. And because right now the Knockman Gauntlet is the only reliable one. And
Right.
so as
Yeah.
soon as they get to the Knockman Gauntlet, the planet opens fire on them because it's controlled by Genestealers.
Oh wow.
Yep.
Yeah, I know that Knockman Gauntlet that is being set up for, or is like the hottest war in the galaxy because whoever controls that at this point
Yep.
has
Because
got it.
even the Chaos has a tough time traveling through the Knockman Gauntlet.
Yeah, and that surprises me. Is it just because it's like warp storms affect them just as bad?
Well, the warp is its own
Yes.
thing.
Well,
The Chaos Gods don't have too much control.
Right.
Plus, Zeech will fuck with his own guys.
Oh, that's all part of the plan. That's all part of the plan.
The fuck part of the plan calls for fucking with your own guys.
The big plan. It's the master plan.
I think Zinch is just bored at this point.
He's always
Probably
bored.
is.
yeah.
Like, I mean, how many times does he
Yeah,
play with
and
himself
it,
half the time on his master
Whoa,
plan?
whoa, whoa, whoa.
You know what I mean.
Absolutely.
yeah. Someone asked me like if Alfarius fell to any god, I'm like, it would totally be Zeech. Duh.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Don't get me wrong.
And that's one of part of the interesting conversation about because everything leads back to Alfarius. Is the idea is did one of the twins fall to chaos and the other one stay loyal?
Hopefully we get more, more information in the future.
Yeah.
I got a. Well, we had that that conversation with Calasarius Ball in the guild because he was it him that thought that it wasn't really Alfarius that was killed on Pluto
Oh,
in
yeah,
the
yeah.
book Praetorian Adorn. I'm like, no. One of the twins is dead for sure. There
Mhm.
was a psychic backlash because of it. Everyone felt it.
Yeah. And that the quote of
you
like
don't fake
I'm
something.
finally alone. Yeah.
Yeah, at the end of that book, I'll pull it up real quick. Give me
Right.
1 second.
Oh, you're counting. You're brutal.
I always count whenever it's like someone says that. Give me a second. 1, 2. Skip a few.
Mhm. Oh, you know what? We should
Uh,
start like a barbershop quartet
No.
while we're doing this. No?
No.
Okay. Right.
I'd really hate my voice. Even then, I just wouldn't even be a part of it.
Just like I'm out. I'm not doing it.
I don't want to get
Yeah.
copyrighted.
Yeah. Fair enough. Oh, and hey, uh are guests going to be see the stuff at the bottom of the screen, Geronimo?
What?
Will our viewers see the interesting stuff at the bottom of the screen, or are you going to edit that out?
No, that's already out. I don't know what's wrong with Discord, okay? For some
No, no,
reason, it's showing the entire thing.
I'm sorry.
Like, the only thing they're gonna see is this.
Okay.
I'm gonna put a bunch
I'm
of
just saying
stuff behind us now.
that's okay. I just thought it'd be interesting that they're getting a behind the scenes view.
I don't even
you
know
know.
how to record the recording source material.
Oh geez. Oh no.
Screen
Oh
record.
no.
No, it doesn't capture that. Because
Yeah, I don't
I
know.
routed a bunch of other now that is capturing that.
He's Frankensteined it all over the place.
I kind of had to. I still don't
Oh,
understand this new recorder.
that's egg. While he's pulling that up, I wanted to show some things here. I'm going to drop him in podcast media as well. So
Oh, I found it.
yeah,
Found it?
found it. Okay, then I
Cool.
will wait. I will wait.
Oh, I literally had walked over to my freaking library and said, "Oh my God, woke." He had never slept, had never dreamed, had never felt the tug of mortal fatigue in all the days of his existence. Yet here he was, waking from black oblivion, the cold deck of the ship beneath, the darkness of his arming chamber close about him. The pulse of the Beta's engines was a distant rumble on the edge of silence. Coldness poured through his flesh. Moisture beaded his skin. He could taste blood in his mouth, thick and harsh with iron. His hands were numb, the fingers hooked as though grasping something that had vanished. He moved the fingers and then brought them back up to his face. Sharp needles, pain prickled beneath his touch, and a new feeling came crushing in its weight, undeniable in its truth, though he could not tell how it arrived. He was alone.
Oh, that's some good writing there. Who did that?
John French.
All right, that explains it. Yeah, that's some good writing. I like that.
Yeah, dude.
Excellent.
One of the brothers is dead.
Yes.
I don't know which one. He is freaking dead. After reading that passage, there's no way they wouldn't have written it like that. No. I got into a huge argument with one of the YouTube streamers who was saying that everything in Pariah was nonsense, and I'm like, why would Dan Abnett go through nearly 15 years of writing to culminate to this moment just for it to be a quasi false flag, just kidding moment if he wasn't making something great here soon with the culmination of Valdor's character
Mhm.
as the King in Yellow. And he didn't like me very much after I gave him all that info. It's like, I don't feel like that dude's actually read all the books. Ugh. But whatever.
People are people.
We're not going to mention his name. But dude, he puts on the most clickbaity headlines for all of his videos, and my weak ass clicks on him and watches him. And then I'm like, you're a retard. But whatever.
Well, we found out Lysander's tism.
Yeah, I said, don't hold back, brother. Tell us how you really feel. You know. Okay, fair enough. All right. Note
Well,
to self.
God.
Note to self. Okay, do not
You know, bullshit lore.
argue lore with Lysander.
Well, I know. I'm not like the all-ending expert on freaking lore, obviously, but
Right.
But
like
you
I can
know a
put
great
two and two
deal.
together.
Yeah.
I
Plus,
know
he's
I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good.
Yes.
But
yeah, he's
I
read
know
this
guys that
stuff.
are better. But like when that kid made this claim that like you can't trust anything in Pariah, I'm just like, why would Dan Abnett troll everyone for the, what do you kids call it, the lulls? No,
Lulz.
everything that's on there, like I take it at face value because Dan Abnett's in there to make money for GW, make a great
Uh-huh.
story, and this whole argument of the unreliable narrator that I hear every 5 seconds with lore people, I'm like, then why did they write it in the first place if we can't take it as face value?
Right.
That's silly.
And you know, there is a lot of validity, especially to old lore, about that idea of reliable narrator. But I would agree that Dan Abnett, I mean, he really is the narrative leader of everything that's going on with the Games Workshop right now. And so if anyone
yeah.
is going to be a reliable narrator, it would be him. Now, could there be bluffs and outright lies intentionally in the content? Sure.
Yeah.
Um, especially because so much of like Pariah and that whole storyline is um, espionage type stuff. Deception. It's not straight out conflict. So
Yeah, but but like the characters that are involved in Pariah
Mhm.
are a buildup dating all the way back to the Horus Heresy.
Mhm.
Like I wish you would jump in on our monthly book club because when we read Pariah,
Right.
everyone was like, "Yeah, dude, it was so good. We're just gonna read Penitent next." And I was like, "Heck yeah!" Everyone was all about it, and
Nice.
because it was that good of a book. It's so fun, and there's so many factions involved. Like it's,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can't wait. I can't wait.
Yeah. It's that really good storytelling where you're like, it's like the old movie serials, where it would leave on a cliffhanger and then you come back to see the next one you have to see it to see the resolution. And every chapter has that page turning hungry demand. It's like I've got to know what's going on. I got to know what's going to happen next. And then you reach a pivotal point. Like I remember, was it in Pariah where it's like a space marine comes out and just says, "I am Alfarius," and I was like, "What?" you
Yes,
know, and it's just like,
and
oh my gosh.
and it's my theory. Death Row, that particular um Marine is Ingo Petch from when he got trapped underneath the Imperial Palace.
That would make sense. Yeah.
This is why I think that he's a Dan Abnett created character. He
Right.
created Ingo Petch.
Right.
Dan Abnett has a wonderful habit that I love of reusing characters later in different novels.
Right.
And Ingo Petch was the first captain of the goddamn Alpha Legion.
Right. So S tier, S plus tier.
Yes,
Alpha
and
Legion's
like,
always S tier.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay.
absolutely.
Good point. Good point. So awesome.
So, like, that's why I think Ingo Petch is one of is Death Row. Plus, that Emperor's Children Marine recognized him, and
Hmm.
uh, like, because they're like, a lot of people are like, oh yeah, it's definitely Alfarius. I'm like, Alfarius would have wrecked that dude's ass because Ingo Petch. What was that?
That was a woman talking.
Uh,
What most of us are
well,
unfamiliar with female voices.
Coming from you, I
So
don't want to hear it.
Yeah, you're married.
that's fair. All right.
Does
Well,
anyone
hey,
else want to go ahead?
yeah.
Go ahead.
Is there something I gotta show you guys? I gotta share this. So if there's something else you guys want to talk about, go ahead because I've got some images I'm dropping that you've got to check out.
uh-oh. Should I be scared? Should I be very scared?
I love that we were talking about gene stealers and then we just went straight off the rails.
Not everything I've said, but So this is from a new game being released by Catalyst Games. It's
GW, don't hate us for this.
don't hate us. This if anything,
GW already hates me, so doesn't
We're
bother
not
me.
we're not
Okay.
GW affiliated. Anyways,
not GW affiliated, but so the BattleTech universe has been around for quite some time, late 80s, I believe. And you're talking about giant battle robots. Well, they have decided to
That's
branch out into a new series of games that they call BattleTech Universes, I think it is. And their first one is called BattleTech Gothic. And it is about, in the original BattleTech storyline, it is their galaxy is just filled with humans, and it's just humans shooting each other with giant robots. In the BattleTech Gothic, something happened, and there's been they refer to it as Elder Gods, so maybe like a Cthulhu type feel to it, because Catalyst Games also does some Cthulhu stuff. But now it's giant battle mechs fighting uh, demons, and the mechs are being merged with demons and things like this. And I'm telling you, man, this artwork looks really familiar to me.
just a scotch.
Just a little bit.
Isn't BattleTech just like MechWarrior? Like
Yes,
same
it's the
universe?
same universe. Yep, absolutely.
I
It
played
is
I played MechWarrior when I was a kid, like it was going out of style.
yeah.
it was a
I,
gay
I
game back
bought the
then.
I bought the action figures. Uh, While we've been talking for the last 5 minutes, I've been making sprue goo.
Woohoo. Don't sniff it. It's bad.
Oh yeah, this stuff's
Uh,
fucking gnarly.
yeah.
Shoot.
I
While we've been
did
sitting there talking as well,
this
I've
to my
been
extra thin. Well, I actually got a little painting in while I was over here.
Nice.
Yeah, I did some more. I pretty much finished one of the basing and everything on one of those flesh tears.
Nice.
Cool. But yeah, with that BattleTech Gothic, besides, I wonder how long it's going to take them for James Workshop to try and sue them into oblivion. But I'm
Battletech.
also interested in the utility of the bits and stuff that come off of the figures to be used for um, kit bashing and things like that, because you could totally see some of these gnarly things being moved into like used as chaos terminators or chaos mechanicus, or sorry, dark mechanicum or whatever would be
Well,
cool in
the
that
problem with
regard.
BattleTech is their figurines. They're
Mhm.
more scaled to like uh Imperialis.
Yeah, I've got some of them, and most of them are about the size of a. I think they're 28 millimeters. I'm not sure. Um, but still, uh, because of their affordability, maybe a great place for bits for people who are looking for stuff. So
Oh, dude, I've actually thought about starting a BattleTech army just because it's so much cheaper.
yeah, um,
The lore is not as deep, but it looks like it's a very simple, fun game.
it is. Yeah, and it's a great way to pull people who are like on the edge of being interested in tabletop gaming, because Warhammer can be a huge, scary leap for people. But if you're like, okay, these are like walking tanks, and we're going to shoot at each other for 30 minutes while beer and pretzels, they're more likely to be into it. So,
no, that's why
Absolutely.
I'm trying to get into Kill Team.
Yeah, that's why I started out with.
yeah, Kill Team's great for stuff like that.
I
What was
dive
it?
straight in.
What was, uh, yeah, was it Blackstone Fortress?
Squeak, 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 squeak,
I know. Sorry, I got puppers in the background.
squeak,
My family has been really cool
squeak,
about
squeak,
being
squeak.
quiet, but I can't guarantee anything about puppers, especially the young golden retriever. He's just He's got two brain cells that rub together every once in a while.
You know what? My squeaker is louder than his.
Whoa!
That is the most awful thing I've ever heard in my life.
It was a
You ever
chicken.
seen Dumb
Yeah.
and Dumber?
Yep.
Yeah. Like, want to hear the
You know
most
that- you know
annoying
what-
sound in the world?
Yeah, that was on par.
That was our sacrificial rubber chicken.
Sacrificial rubber chicken. That's right.
Lol.
Oh,
Awesome sauce.
is anyone reading any good books right now?
I'm still going through Gaunt's Ghost.
Oh, dude, Gaunt's Ghost.
Dude.
If you're not over Sophia's Kane by the end of Gaunt's Ghost, I don't even know what to say.
I have a gripe about the first two books. They're mini stories.
Right. Yeah. I don't think they ever imagined how big it would be.
There's a reason for that.
Yeah, I know, but
Yeah.
it skips from one timeline to another, and then again to another.
Yeah. Well, that's what in the book they all go forward in time,
Mm-hmm.
and then
Except for that one
and
part where he goes back in time.
then they do little
Spoilers.
flashbacks. And they do flashbacks within the book of an earlier time in Gaunt's life.
Yeah, that was the second short story.
Well, you're gonna keep getting those.
Yeah.
Like Gaunt. They'll just do like a one chapter flashback of Gaunt's life when he was at the Scholar Progenium, or when he first became a commissar, or no, when he
When
first
he-
after he's been given his commissar rank, his sash. After he's been given his sash. Also, like you're gonna see that throughout the book, and he ties it in very well to what's going on currently in Gaunt's life.
Right.
What pisses me off is after the last book, we really don't know what happens to Gaunt. And I just figured out that the Sabbath Crusade is still going on in the 41st millennium.
Oh my gosh.
I thought it was still going on in the
Like the
42nd
Sabbath-
too.
Yeah, well, 42nd. We're in 42nd. It's still going on because the new book, Interceptor City, is taking place in
recommended
the
to me.
current timeline. It was so good. It was better than Double Eagle. It's way better than Double Eagle. So good.
Because they mentioned it in the ninth codex for the Astra Militarum. That is, I think it's
Yes.
still going on in the 42nd millennium.
Okay.
Yeah, so this war has been going on for like 200 years now.
Mm-hmm.
Like Gaunt, unless Gaunt got some rejuvenate, he's dead.
I guarantee he's got
He has to be
rejuvenate.
dead. Even though I'm not going to spoil it for you, some warp theory happens later in the book or later in the series and goes down, but I'm not going to spoil it for you. It's
Are you talking about when he gets?
It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Don't
When
ruin
he
it,
ends
dude.
up in his.
Yeah, why did
Okay,
you mention
I'm just
it when
saying.
he said don't spoil?
I don't. I can't help it. It's so funny. It's just the way it's handled is so funny. I love it. Okay. But speaking of which, I love you guys, but I do have to bail. My time limit has been reached.
Well,
We
listen,
gotta
Me
do a
too. I gotta
closer.
go eat. I gotta do. Oh yeah. Okay.
But we got to do our closing. So give it a little bit of clear space here. Ladies and gentlemen, Battle Brothers, this has been the Alpha Rejects. It's been our pleasure to share our words with you. I am Olanius Pius.
And I am Lysander.
bye, it's your turn.
Oh, and I'm Spy.
And finally, I'm Drano because I'm last apparently.
No,
And we
no,
are
this
Alfarius.
we are Alfarius. And maybe Genestealer Cult members too. Anybody want to kiss?
Yeah.
Let's-
I'm good.